Devil May Cry 1. What a game you are. Even when there's better alternatives to playing you, you still manage to catch my attention and whisper into my ears, "Play me one more time." How interesting you are to keep yourself in my head after, what, like a year gap from really touching you for the first time? Why is it, though, that such a classic is still making you remember it and want to play it again after touching a bunch of other action games? Is it the gameplay? The story?
But somebody from the underworld woke up to justice.
Whoa, slow down, babe.
Didn't your daddy teach you how to use a sword?
Are you the human, the son of Sparta who challenges the darkness, Mundus?
Block off, Featherface, or you can stick around and find out the hard way. This stinking hole was the last place I thought I'd find anyone with some guts.
Nah, that ain't it. Shit's aged like a fine cheese. Is it the music that gets me pumped to beat the fuck out of a demon or three? Well, I think I can give a good enough of an answer and make it short and sweet. The game's short and satisfying. Missions don't go on for too long, which can lead to a really short playthrough when you know where to go. Nothing really drags on for too long, no longer than maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and in some cases, barely 3. Doesn't change that the game is still gonna get you one way or another from how hard enemies hit you. Despite the length of the entire game, what makes the gameplay so fun? What makes a game like DMC1 still satisfying to play when alternatives like DMC 3 through 5 exist, or hell, even Bayonetta? Simplistic and satisfying to engage in mostly. Well, why mostly instead of the whole ass pizza? A few exceptions kind of bog down the gameplay in a sense, but we'll get to those in a second. Trust me, we're gonna fucking get to those. And aside from the 2 examples soon to come,
Postscript Blum here.
okay, I know I said there were 2 examples, but there's gonna be more than 2 down the line. Trust me, just fucking trust me on this, please. The game is still simple and satisfying to engage with. The game is simple because unlike later games in the franchise, you've only got 1 style to work with, 3 devil arms, 4, technically 5, guns. Your moveset is small in comparison to the kind of shit you can rock in the later games, and that's okay. Even if your moveset is comparatively small, you're still potent at what you can do. Kill and kill with style. Okay, so what? The game is short and simple, but what makes it so satisfying to play? 2 words: impact and feedback. There's a certain crunch to when you hit enemies that just never gets old to hear. And the way certain enemies react to your attacks, like when the blades get knocked flat on their asses and they slide because of how hard you hit them. Now, because of impact, certain attacks are just fun as fuck to do and hit with because of how hard the screen shakes. And Ifrit is the prime existence for selling you how hard Dante is hitting the enemy. The way you can charge every strike and just delete certain enemies like Frost, or even bosses if you know how to fight them with it. Alistair has its own sense of impact too, but it's a bit more subtle, and you really notice it with the enders of each of your combos. Now, feedback is all linked to animations and hit stun via stuff like how Dante swings his sword, or even how enemies will suffer from Dante's blows, and even how much blood they spill. Marionettes are a good product of this, as they spill pools of blood from each hardy, yet deliberate swing Dante makes. Blades and Frost are harder to knock down, and once you see those motherfuckers slide face or even back first into the ground after getting hit by something like Stinger or even a point-blank shotgun blast, it feels great, and it fuels you to keep their asses planted and just hit them that much harder. Hitting and comboing is nice and all, but what about movement and its brand of feedback? Well, it's clunky? Dante moves like it's a fucking Sunday, and only when you pop DT does he realize that it's actually Tuesday. Alright, Devil Trigger, that's right. DT makes you hit harder, and only when Alistair does it make you move faster, giving another layer of feedback and fuels player choice. Rolling is another means of avoiding damage, but it's also clunky. But that doesn't mean you can't make use of it. Just be very wary of the camera and you should be fine when you're trying to avoid something. Okay, now DT, a central mechanic that comes after Dante... Yeah, that. DT does a few things. It regens health, boosts damage, and depending on what weapon you choose, can ultimately buff you in one way or the other. You get DT when you do damage, so if you want those boosts, go for it. Just be mindful that you can also use the DT as a burst to escape some forms of grabs like the marionettes. Use your DT wisely, and only really use it when you have to. If you use it as a crutch, it'll make many problems for you. Well, it seems Blem really likes DMC1, but what about the other bits? Where's the rotten part of this aged cheese? Okay, I know I can just say and prove how much I love a game, but you know what? The endgame is kinda ass, because... Nobodies are the worst thing since fucking Satan, man. They hit hard, they have their own buff state when they put on their mask, it becomes annoying to kill them. They're just the worst thing to fight in endgame. And on hard mode, in Mission 17, that's when they appear! Nightmare exists, and his fights just get smaller and smaller and smaller. Oh, and you do no damage. It's an annoying fight to do, and oh my god, it's so annoying to fight a giant fucking demon train when your main character is trapped in a demonic fuckbox! Nightmare 3 is horrible to fight! Jesus Christ! But with all the attacks that you can barely avoid within that small little fuckbox, but then you got Trish at the very end of it just going, "Oh no, you're the dummy stupid man, therefore I shall zap you to serve my master." And Dante's like, "Whoa, slow down, babe. Oh my fucking hell, this fight is awful. Okay, so sure there's Nightmare who's complete and utter fucking AIDS, but what about Nello? Nello 1 and 2 are fun, right? They're fun, they're fair, they're equal fights. Nello 3 fucking happens, and then it's like a goddamn freight train just hits you anytime you make a mistake. That fight is so punishing that it sometimes borders on unfair for how hard he hits you. Even on fucking normal mode can he just delete your life after one attack, or even just one string. It's an annoying fight to deal with. It can be fun, but he hits too fucking hard for it to be considered fun sometimes. Mundus, just fucking Mundus as a whole. Having one boss fight that just plays like an inverted Star Fox, then having the final fight take place on a volcano where you can only use Sparta DT to really do any meaningful bits of damage, and then he refuses to die, and then it just turns into... Go away! But despite all that, after the finale and the entire cheesy-ass ending, DMC1, despite having its blemishes, is still an enjoyable romp. The game is still satisfying to play as a conclusive whole due to its foundation being so strong, and why we have so many other games. DMC1 is a landmark title, and led to a very bountiful and success... Oh,